Despite President Trump's claims of fake news, it would seem Russia has been systematically manipulating our news sources to affect the outcome of Brexit and the US election. But how long has fake news been going on? How new is the idea that our sources of information are being manipulated? We should have a contest as to which of the networks, plus CNN and not including Fox, is the most dishonest, corrupt and/or distorted in its political coverage of your favorite president, me. They are all bad. Winner to receive the fake news trophy, Donald J. Trump, at Real Donald Trump, the 27th of November 2017. My research into early forms of news shows it has always been manipulated, and we can trace fake news as far back as the concept of news itself. Singing the news. The 16th century brought the invention of movable type and mass printing, and with it, news broadsides, which often took the form of songs. News ballads told the major news events of the day, crimes, battles, politics, and put them to the tune of well-known songs. That way, even the mostly illiterate population could hear the news and repeat it easily. These ballads were sung and sold on the street by ballad vendors who would sing their contents to advertise them. Songs were therefore limited to the meter and structure of the chosen tune, so we can imagine they sacrificed accuracy for rhythm and rhyme. But did they? We should have a contest as to which of the networks, plus CNN and not including Fox, is the most dishonest, corrupt and/or distorted in its political coverage of your favorite president, me. They are all bad. Winner to receive the fake news trophy, Donald J. Trump, at Real Donald Trump, the 27th of November 2017. News ballads ensured even illiterate people could hear and remember the news of the day. They remained popular into the 18th century. Picture, Wikipedia. All reports in this period, including songs, stressed their truth, and execution. Ballads in particular often claimed to be the final words and confession of the criminal. Ballad about Captain John Bolton, who murdered his apprentice Elizabeth Rainbow in 1775, and who committed suicide before his execution, was titled, A True and Tragical Song. However, it is written, as many execution ballads were, in the first-person voice of the prisoner himself. The last verse goes, I then did perpetrate my last vile crime, and put a final end unto my time. Myself I strangled in the lonesome cell, and ceased in this transit world to dwell. Clearly anyone singing this song was aware of the illogical claim that a dead person could recount their own suicide. But the rest of the details of the story, taking Elizabeth on as an apprentice, raping her and her subsequent pregnancy, all tally precisely with the account in the Newgate calendar. The tabloids of old. The key to understanding the paradoxical claims to truth in the voice of a dead man is that many news accounts in the early modern period were intended to be highly moralizing, and to sell. Movable type, invented in the 16th century, heralded the beginning of mass news production. Picture, British Museum. Like the tabloid news coverage of today, news ballads were always sensationalist, covering topics that were sure to appeal to the attention of shoppers in busy marketplaces. The song about a 17th century engrosser of corn, a wholesale purchaser who buys great quantities to raise the price, who saw his barn destroyed and entire stock scattered to the wind by the devil, would have appealed to many of its poorer listeners who struggled with rising prices. Similarly, the ballad about the 12-foot-long, prophetical fish that was caught near China in 1664, described it as covered in bizarre symbols and markings that would have reassured its listeners about contemporary political threats. One verse describes its rear. There are 3 muskets and a sword, displayed upon the rump, which shows the Hollander aboard is beaten to the stump. Given this was printed at the height of the Anglo-Dutch Wars, its seemingly fantastical prediction of the defeat of the Hollander would nonetheless have caught the eye and ear of many listeners and purchasers. But despite violent devils and miraculous fish, many ballads still recounted news events that are all too familiar and true. A ballad, or gwers, still sung in Brittany called Perinagar Munion, about the rape and murder of a servant girl called Perin La Munion in Lannion has been traced to an actual event in 1695, and details such as street names and landmarks are perfectly accurate. Finding the fakes. While we may despair at the corrupt manipulation of our news by Russian bots, we can take comfort that, at least sometimes, the fake news purveyor eventually gets caught. Like the perjurer Titus Oates, whose false claims of a popish plot from 1678 to 1681 saw mass executions of innocent men and anti-Catholic hysteria whipped to a frenzy. Lies were eventually uncovered and he was sentenced to be whipped and stand in the pillory. This time, the ballads about him told the truth, and the reward of deceit told in both image and song of his shame. And now must Oates stand in the pillory, there, to be battered so with rotten eggs, both on the face, the body, and the legs. Although we don't put people in the pillory anymore, nor sing the news, Oates' tale shows us that the appetite for fake news has been around as long as there has been money to make from it. Dr. Una McIlvenna is a professor of historical and philosophical studies, within the Faculty of Arts at the University of Melbourne. This piece was first published in Pursuit.